Hello there, and welcome to another edition of the HuskerOnline Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sibley, Robin Washut here, taking you home on this Memorial Day weekend. We don't know yet if the Cultural magazines are out yet, but they should be out.
Did you check today?
I checked. They weren't in there yet.
They weren't in where?
Barnes & Noble. But usually they do arrive. I'm probably the only guy in Lincoln that goes in.
No. Missing Tooth Greg.
Goes into Barnes & Noble.
He does the same thing.
Greg. On Thursdays and Fridays of Memorial Day weekend to get my hands on the first copy of probably something I could find on the internet, but I enjoy getting the copy.
Yeah, I totally understand why. I kind of miss the days when you used to start the show by saying, hello here.
Hello here. And boy, I got that. It triggered
I miss those days.
You like the hello there?
Hello here.
Hello here.
I liked it when you used to say hello here.
I've cleaned up my South Omaha vocabulary.
All right, we got to look for those magazines tomorrow.
Thursday, Friday, yeah, but we're taping here on Wednesday as we get you ready for a big Memorial Day weekend with Nebraska softball and baseball, and we'll get into those topics later in the show. But the big thing I want to lead off with is the future of this House settlement case, and we're still waiting on Judge Wilkin, Claudia Wilkin in California to sign off on this. But the big story now revolves around a document that the Power Four conferences are trying to get all of their schools to sign, which basically means you will agree to these terms and not try to go backdoor and create more avenues of NIL and maybe take them on legally over things they might reject because you don't like what this committee or this oversight committee is going to say yes or no to future of NIL things. We're trying to level the field a little bit. The only problem is, states like Tennessee have already put this into effect. They're ready to go. Nebraska had a bill, at least in discussion, and never got off the floor. But yeah, this is a mess because I do think there's some possible legal ramifications that this is going to lead to as other states might have laws that allow them to work around. But the penalty is they might kick you out of your conference, they say, which I highly doubt. They're not going to kick Tennessee out of the SEC. You think they are?
No.
You were giving me the they might.
Well, I mean, that's what they're saying. That it's a mess. I know people. I know as we talk about it, people sort of roll their eyes like, here we go again. But I don't understand. The thing I don't understand, and what Tennessee wants is simple to me. They want to have the rev share number in place, $25 million. Then they want to have to be able to tap into NIL how they want to do
without
it.
regulation.
Without regulation. And that's what I think should happen. If I were in charge, I'd say that's what we should do. Now, like the Baylor AD says, then why do we have a settlement at all? He's got a point. He does have a point. Why have a settlement at all if you're just going to have unrestricted NIL? Well, not everybody. Some people are restricted by NIL by the fact they can't do it. But if you can do it, then you should be able to do it. Then it sort of just gets back to the way college football used to be, which is fine with me. But like Sean says, there's a lot of legal questions to that.
I just think what this shows is that there's no one policy or one set of guidelines that's going to apply to everyone.
Exactly.
Where you have schools that are playing a different sport right now. Right. Like the Big Ten and SEC are playing a different brand of college athletics.
And you're trying to govern them all.
Yeah, and they're trying to say, all right, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, you guys have to follow the same rules as Oklahoma State and
Iowa State,
Georgia Tech,
yeah.
Those types of schools. Like it's not fair to the lower conference schools outside of those Power 2 that they have to try to play the same game as these extremely more funded athletic departments. And it's also not fair to these extremely well-funded athletic departments to have to abide by the same rules as schools that can't do what they can do financially. So, I mean, I think this is another example of the separation that's happening between the haves and the have-nots. And I think with the more legal precedent that's going to be set, that divide's only going to get bigger.
When you mentioned Iowa State as an example, I talked to somebody, that is connected or has a good insight to what's going on at Iowa State. They don't, as of right now, they won't be able to fully fund the 20.5.
Most Big 12 schools, or I'd say half the Big 12 schools won't.
And so they're already behind the 8 ball. And I would say for 90% or more athletic departments at the D1 level, the $20.5 million is great. They're like, this is awesome. But it's the 10% or 8% of schools that are in this level that, like Texas has already said, yeah, we're going to be paying our team 35 to 40 million. So this 20.5 is a problem for them. Like they have to figure out how they're going to continue to, legally pay another 15 to 20 million that passes the committee.
Well, they're going to have what they call the clearinghouse is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So the clearinghouse, it's not going to, I don't know. They're going to use an algorithm. It's really, it gets a little complex.
And you can't, this thing you sign basically says you can't sue and go after the clearinghouse.
Right.
And, if they say
that's the Tennessee state
this
law.
NIL deal you sign won't pass mustard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and they're going to say you can't challenge this
because they don't think earnings should be restricted.
Right.
And I don't either. So it just gets back to the same conversation we were having in 1985 when there were payments made under the table. It was really no different. Now it's a little more out in front of us. But fundamentally speaking, it's just the same. It's the same conversation. Mm-hmm. Auburn had a big advantage over Iowa State in 1985 because they could pay players. It was just happening under the table. And this, see what would happen with this clearinghouse matter is there would be more payments under the table.
Mm-hmm.
That's because they can't check your tax records.
Right.
Like the NCAA does not have the right to say, I need to see your W-2 or your earnings for the year.
It sounds silly that I'm saying I think that should be the way it is, but I haven't seen anything that would be better than that.
Mm-hmm. And again, I'm with you because I don't think that schools that can and are willing to commit that much financially should have to be limited with what they can do and the types of players that they can go get because some other school can't.
Right.
I get that we want this parity, we want to level the playing field, but that's just not the reality of college sports now. There's never been more of a gap between teams that are in that realm and teams that can't, whether they want to or just they're unable to.
Well, and guess what? The heavily partisan divided Supreme Court voted on this a couple years ago, 9-0. Like a Supreme Court that rarely
what'd they vote
to basically allow NIL in the first place,
right.
Like to how it is
unrestricted.
Yeah, how we're doing it now. The Supreme Court doesn't agree on much. They were 9-0. I mean, it was they got dunked on. I mean, it was over at that point. And what you're doing now is saying, hey, we're going to collectively bargain for the players. Well, there's one problem. The players aren't involved.
Right.
Like
how can they get involved?
That's the thing. Like the NFL has this type of structure, but the players have a voice in the collective bargaining process. Mm-hmm. And that's where they're going to run into trouble with this, that they're setting all these rules and guidelines for the players, but the players don't get a voice.
Yeah, there's no players association like there is in the NFL or NBA. Like it's basically being taken care of by other people in another room that you don't even have a say in.
Will this all take care of itself? Are we wringing our hands for nothing?
I don't know. It seems like it's getting messier by the day.
It does, but we'll just be caught up in a court system, and once the games start, we'll just be.
Well, July 1 is the first mile marker because the schools are on the hook to start paying these players, and they got to get to July 1 first. Let's see what that looks like.
Right. I get what you're saying, and that is a marker. But I talked to a school official today who said, don't get too caught up in all this. It'll all work out.
Think about July 1, though, how big that's going to be, that the University of Nebraska is going to have $20.5 million to begin paying athletes directly with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's significant.
Imagine hearing that 5 years ago. What a world.
You seem very, very confused there over there, Sip. A lot of whooms and a lot of head shakes.
I'm not confused. It's just all. Sometimes I wonder if we're making. It'll all work out. I think, and if they're not going to just college football's not going to just go away.
It's kind of like football during the COVID era. Like eventually they had to figure out how to play because they were going to lose millions of dollars.
Right.
And that's why like these threats about kicking teams out of their conferences or whatever, like it doesn't carry any water to me. You know what? Because what's like Fox going to do or ESPN when they threaten to kick out one of their flagship institutions out of a conference, they're paying a whole bunch of money to broadcast those games.
I think
we'll know who really is holding the chips in this discussion.
I think you're right that July 1 significant, but I just think there's going to be this is going to be ensnarled in courts indefinitely. Like there's not going to be just one. I don't envision a moment where we're all going to say, okay, it all came together. This is great. Everybody's happy. No,
These are the rules now. Everybody's okay with it.
Well, what's going to stop somebody from
legal entanglement after legal entanglement after legal entanglement?
What's stopping somebody from paying a player or a family member legally? Not when I say illegally, illegal money is like you take money and don't pay tax on it.
Right.
And that's mafia stuff right there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what those guys got in trouble with in the basketball side. But if a company pays you and you pay taxes on that money, NCAA doesn't have to know about that. Like, it's not like they don't have the ability. They're not
to restrict.
They're not the IRS. They don't get a look at what you earn in a year. So what's going to stop them in the first place?
I don't know.
Nothing.
Right.
I mean, if this big company says we're going to give you $100,000, but we're going to pay it to your uncle,
and
then your uncle is going to give it to you, or I mean, they can't stop that.
You wouldn't think so. It's just that everybody doesn't have that. All schools don't have that available. They can't do it, but they've never been able to do it. All of them.
So again, it goes back to your point. Like all these rules, like it's basically the same thing as it was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, teams that want to pay players are going to find out ways to pay players.
Right.
There's
Just
always a loophole.
Just pay your taxes.
There's always a loophole.
Just
No
pay your
matter
taxes
what
on
rule
what
is
you
in
pay.
place, you can find a way around it.
Yeah. Now it's different in that I want to give this voice that it's not bags of money anymore. It's not just
McDonald's bags full of cash,
like Tennessee,
which that's a crime.
Right. That's a crime.
I mean, you're taking 100,000, 50,000 cash
right.
and not paying a nickel of tax on it. That's a federal crime that you go to jail for. Right. That's Tony Soprano type stuff right there.
Exactly. So here we are. It's a new development. That Tennessee state law, which was actually passed earlier, it just came to light.
Well, Nebraska's law could have easily passed too,
but it's stuck.
It just never was made a priority by any of the state senators for this legislative session. And you know, there are other things that are much more important. You know, it's reality. I mean, there's a lot more important pressing matters that our elected state leaders are going to talk about than paying a football player.
Because at Tennessee, it just matters more.
SEC.
All right. When we come back, I got an interesting thought. I want you guys' take on this. We're going to talk Nebraska, Michigan. And I think there's a way that this game, and I think this might excite people, will not be picked up for Fox on Big Noon Kickoff. I'll tell you why next. You're listening to the HuskerOnline Show. Back here on the HuskerOnline Show, Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett. Before we get into our next segment here, we're brought to you by HelloFresh. And if you've never tried HelloFresh, it makes cooking fun, easy, healthy. I promise you, if you do HelloFresh, you're going to cook and do things in your kitchen you never have done before, and it's a lot easier because they send it all right to you. You pick out your recipes, you pick out your meals. Hey, I want these specific meals. They have 50 different options per week. Then they send you all the meats, all the produce, all the spices, a simple to follow recipe card, and you just make them in your own kitchen. And you say, hey, it's just my wife and I, or we have 4 in our family. I want a meal for 2. I want a meal for 4, 6, 8, whatever the number is. They send that specific amount of ingredients to you to make the meal, and they give you lots of options. They send them to you once a week, and you say, hey, we just want 2 dinners per week. They'll give you 2 dinners for 2 people. It's really, really easy. If you've never tried HelloFresh, we've got a great deal at HelloFresh.com/Husker10FM. That 10FM stands for 10 free meals. We're going to give you 10 free meals plus a free item for the life of your box per active subscription. Again, that's HelloFresh.com/Husker10FM, and you'll get 10 free meals with HelloFresh plus a free item for life. Thanks again to HelloFresh for sponsoring us here on the HuskerOnline Show. But guys, I want to get into this topic because we are going to learn some early season kickoff times next week. One that we probably won't learn though yet is Nebraska versus Michigan.
Week 4.
Because they only tell you the first 3 weeks of the season, week 0 through 3. That we'll learn the Friday games and some other games. But the week 4 game is interesting to us for a lot of reasons. This is Nebraska versus Michigan in Memorial Stadium without Sharon Moore on the sideline. And just conventional wisdom would tell you that this game, it's Big Noon on Fox. It's a lock. But is it? And let me tell you why. North Carolina travels to Central Florida. So Central Florida is technically a part of the Fox package in the Big 12. This would be the only opportunity Fox would get to air a Bill Belichick game on TV. Look at the first two games for both these teams. They're going to be heavy favorites to win and be 2-0 versus 2-0. So you could have a 2-0 Bill Belichick playing a 2-0 Scott Frost in Orlando. To me, that's big noon, no question.
Is it no question if one of them would get upset?
That's probably, but they're going to be heavy favorites in these games. I mean, they're playing like lower division, lower teams like Charlotte and FCS opponents.
And that's the only opportunity Fox will have because
North Carolina is part of ESPN ABC.
Yeah.
So I
think you got this.
I think Bill Belichick on Fox gets one opportunity, and it would be a 2-0 versus 2-0. You take the whole big noon show to Orlando, and you talk all about Jordan Hudson. You talk about Scott
Frosty.
I mean,
here's the deal. And you're probably right. It's not bad for Nebraska, though, because they would either play at 2:30 p.m.
or
on
6:30.
CBS or 6:30 on NBC. Not bad.
I think it's a win. Like if you're Nebraska, you're like, go for this. And I think the rating that the Belichick first big game, because it's his first Power 4 game,
I think it'd get a huge rating.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a Deion Sanders deal, Rob.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you already see that. Like the draw North Carolina football is now because of all the drama going around with their football coach and his significant other. Like that's TV gold, especially if you're Fox and you've been already talking about it nonstop for the last however many months. Like that makes total sense. And then you have that window available with, later in the afternoon, evening, which from a TV standpoint, I mean, if your fallback is Michigan or Nebraska, like that's like a dream scenario there. And so it's a win for the TV networks, and it's certainly a win for Nebraska.
I take that back, though. They do open with TCU, but that is North Carolina.
Oh.
That's an ESPN game. But then it's Charlotte and Richmond.
Okay.
But the UCF game would be the only game that's not a part of like the ESPN family.
Yeah, the North Carolina. I'm glad you mentioned Deion. The Deion story won't be as juicy this year because his boys are gone.
Mm-hmm.
The TV needs a replacement. It's just like it's almost a little too convenient for my liking. Like, oh, okay, Belichick slides right into that, right? And there it is. I think you're right. I think that's where this is going.
And it's early enough that
they could lose to TCU,
regardless of that game. That'll still be a draw.
Well, and Michigan does play Oklahoma on the road. Mm-hmm. And think how hot it's going to be in Norman, Oklahoma on week 2.
Tough game.
That's a hard game. There's going to be heat down. I mean, the heat in Oklahoma on September 6th, depending on when that's just that's going to be a tough place for Michigan to go play, depending on when they kick it off.
It'll be a tough game. Oklahoma coming off a bad season, but they got John Mateer at quarterback and a new offensive coordinator. Venables is calling the plays on defense. Oklahoma's got to win, is my point. They got to win this year.
But yeah, I think Nebraska, Michigan, if I'm betting, I'm putting my chip on the night game.
6:30 on NBC.
Yeah, I think that's my
6:30 on NBC.
But it's not going to be an early selection, so we might have to let 2 weeks of college football play out before we know.
6:30 on NBC would be wonderful. We'd get to see Michigan. Maybe we'd get to see that third quarter celebration again with Michigan that we saw when they played here. It was incredible.
See how much they'll be dancing this time around.
Tell you, Michigan, though, they lost a lot on defense.
What are you saying, Rob?
Just talking some smack, That's me.
They lost a lot. I mean, they had
Michigan lost a lot.
They had 4 defenders drafted in the top 100 picks.
You did their preview.
Yep.
Tell me more about Michigan.
Well, they have
What'd you learn?
They have a running back coming back who, got hurt but had 100 yards in the bowl game. So that's kind of their best player right now on offense.
What about Bryce Underwood?
He might not start.
Bryce Underwood is,
by that point?
According to Clayton Safey, Bryce Underwood is the heavy favorite to start. Like, I know you keep saying like he might not.
I would be stunned if he didn't start.
Like, you think he'll be the day one starter?
Yes. According to our people at the Wolverine, they'd be shocked. But Jordan Marshall is their running back at Michigan that will take over for Donovan Edwards and Kalel Mullings. So like they have him. He had 100 yards in the bowl game, redshirted last year because he got hurt. But they lost, like I said, Mason Graham, who was the 5th pick, Kenneth Grant, the 13th pick, Will Johnson, the 47th pick, and Josiah Stewart, the 90th pick of the draft, all on their defense.
Will Johnson should have been a first rounder too.
They have to replace a lot. Derek Moore returns as kind of the face of their defense, and he had 4 sacks last year. So not exactly, big time All-American preseason guy like that. But yeah, Underwood's going to be a freshman. Donovan McCulley from Indiana transferred there to Indiana. He's from Indiana to Michigan. He'll be maybe their number 1 receiver or one of their top 2 receivers.
But they got, in theory, a true freshman quarterback playing his first Big Ten road game in prime time at Memorial Stadium. And if Nebraska does what it's supposed to do against an undefeated Nebraska team, hello.
Yeah.
So
I'd sign up for that.
Would you rather see Michigan at 6:30 or 2:30?
6:30.
Always night game.
Yeah, and a lot of it depends on who gets the pick over who that week. That can vary. But the more I think about it, I'd be stunned if Fox turned around.
I would be too.
They get one opportunity to have Bill Belichick.
Very convincing.
And it's going to have a huge rating.
Yeah, it will.
I would argue that game might get a bigger rating than Nebraska, Michigan.
Yeah.
Just because
Belichick.
Yeah.
Belichick, and even Frost is a fascinating. You kind of want to see, let's see if Frost has kind of rehabbed his career and got going. And
yeah,
there you go.
He's the biggest story in college sports outside of courtrooms.
We need to see. The problem is Jordan Hudson, she's kind of disappeared.
Good.
Good
she's telling people they're engaged.
Yeah,
Bill has not mentioned that
Bill's
yet.
like, oh, news to me.
Biggest story, yeah. What would be the second? Was it Arch Manning's the second? Was Arch Manning the second biggest story in college football?
I kind of like Miami, that story with what just getting Carson Beck down there and just the not desperation, but just the crazy amount of money Miami's put in that roster.
The Belichick storyline is number 1. The question is, what's number 2? Arch Manning, is it Alabama second year under DeBoer? What will that look like?
What about the Nico kid?
Oh yeah, Nico at UCLA.
How that quarterback
top 5
or whatever.
Top
Well, think
5.
about Carson Beck left Georgia to go to Miami. That was pretty significant. I mean, Carson Beck was considered to be like the Heisman frontrunner a year ago.
Yeah, he was.
And then got hurt and didn't play well.
Didn't play this spring. Didn't get a chance to play.
Dates a Cavender twin.
Yeah.
Had their Lamborghini stolen in Miami this offseason. I think didn't both their cars get stolen?
Don't know that, Sean.
You got to keep up on that stuff there.
That's a TikTok algorithm.
No, that's
real
a
right
front
there.
page story on On3. But all right, when we come back, we are going to bring Abby Barmore into the discussion. We're going to talk Nebraska softball, super regionals at Tennessee. You're listening to the HuskerOnline Show. Back here on the HuskerOnline Show, Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett. Let's welcome in Abby Barmore to the program, who has a very busy weekend on hand as the Nebraska softball team will be in Knoxville. And we'd probably have sent you down there, Abby, but I know you've got some stuff going on, but we're keeping our fingers crossed they can get to Oklahoma City. So you can go down to Bricktown in Oklahoma City. And
Bricktown. There's a concept.
I'd be jealous.
Watch,
I would love to do that.
Nebraska.
Oh, come on, really?
Yes.
I was just down there. Bricktown's
Okay,
not.
well, I haven't been there in a long time.
This is not your father's Bricktown. This is
Come on.
It's not 2005
It's not
Big
the
12
river.
tournament.
No, it's not the Riverwalk, Rob.
But Abby, you were over at the media availability before the women head off to Knoxville. What is your feel going into this super regional? Nebraska will play Friday evening and Saturday afternoon to open things up in Knoxville.
Yeah, they're really excited for the opportunity. It's a big one and it's a tough challenge, obviously. Tennessee has what I think is probably one of the best pitchers in the country, just a sole pitcher. I think she's the best. Jordy, of course, does a lot more than just pitch. But yeah, Carlin Pickens, her ERA is under 1, which is insane in the SEC. She's given up only 5 home runs this year, 2 of them to Nebraska. So, that will be a great matchup, and probably the best pitcher matchup in the super regionals is Jordy and Carlin. And I know that this Husker offense is excited for the opportunity, but also they haven't done very well against great pitchers this year. So it's going to be a huge opportunity for them to do well, but also, they're used to the run rules. They have 26 run rules this year, but this is going to be one of those couple of games that they're just going to have to scrape by and get.
As we continue this conversation, Abby Barmore about Nebraska softball, this segment of Husker Online Show is brought to you by Huel Energy Drink. If you've never tried Huel, it is everything you need in one bottle. It gives you 35 grams of protein, comes in many great flavors. It's packed with tons of vitamins and nutrients. It's low in sugar. And you can also get it in a powder or the ready-to-go bottles in multiple different flavors. We've all tried Huel. We love Huel. We got a great promo if you've never tried it before for our Husker Online listeners here and viewers. Just simply go to Huel.com, use the promo code Husker, and we'll give you 15% off plus a free gift. Again, that's Huel.com, promo code Husker. You'll get 15% off your order of Huel plus a free gift. And this is only for new customers. Again, Huel.com. Thanks again to Huel for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. But Abby, is it crazy for me to think that I feel like Nebraska's a favorite going into this, just knowing how well they're playing and knowing that they've got the edge already earlier this year on Tennessee?
I don't know if I'd call them the favorite. I think
Slight favorite. That's what I'm saying.
Maybe slight since they already beat them. Sure, I'll give it to you, but I don't know. I think it's going to be a really tough one, and everyone's really interested in that pitcher matchup, obviously, but the defenses as well, because both of the pitchers are so great. It's going to come down to having to be a great defense and having to make tough and close plays if you can get the ball in. And both teams have kind of struggled with that this year. Nebraska's gotten a lot better since the beginning of the year, but it's still something that pops up every once in a while. They have errors. And then also, like, the Husker, their offense is going to have to be great from top to bottom. Obviously, we know the top is really good with Jordy Ball and Sammy Bland and Ava Kuzak, and they have a lot of good batters, but they're going to have to be great in order to get past these Tennessee teams. And then how much is everyone going to pitch, right? Are we just going to have Jordy and Carlin just pitch the whole time? Can they do that? So there's a lot that goes into it, but man, it's going to be a great environment.
Abby, how much do you put into that first meeting, the 7-1 Nebraska win back in February? Because just kind of reading through your recap here, they had 5 runs on Pickens, but all 5 are unearned. They had a whole bunch of errors on Tennessee's side that kind of skewed the score a little bit. So, like, is that indicative of where Nebraska is compared to Tennessee? Or how much do you read into that one when you evaluate the rematch this time around?
Yeah, I don't read too much into it. That was 3 months ago. That was February. That's the first game of the year, so everyone's trying to get feel out. Nebraska's playing on dirt for the first time in a long time, right? So there's more errors when you're first starting to play on dirt, stuff like that. But I think it is beneficial for Nebraska's hitters to know what it's like to go up against Pickens. Has she probably gotten better throughout the year, just like everyone? Yes, but they have a good familiarity with just how hard she throws. Rhonda Revelle said she's the hardest thrower in the country. So she's outstanding, really. I can't downplay it. But, yeah, the Nebraska got the better of them the first time, but I don't read that much into it, really. There's a lot of factors.
Abby, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but if Nebraska were to win this matchup, have you thought about this potential first game of the College World Series, Nebraska versus Oklahoma in Oklahoma City? What that game would be like?
How could you not think about it? That would be outstanding. Obviously, in Oklahoma versus Nebraska, that's totally electric, but also with Jordy, I know that Oklahoma fans, I'm sure they miss her, but hopefully they understand why she wanted to come back, and hopefully they're rooting her on when she's not playing the Boomers. But that would be awesome. But I'm personally in the boat of, I think any matchup would be awesome at this point.
How many Big Ten teams are in the Supers? UCLA 4. And did they make it? I know.
Yeah, UCLA made it.
I didn't know how many were total.
Nebraska.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I thought you.
I should know, but I don't know.
Sorry, Abby. I didn't mean to put you on the spot there. But yeah, it should be the Big Ten in general. I think with both baseball and softball has, especially with the West Coast teams, has really upped their profile this year quite a bit.
Absolutely.
So Abby will have complete coverage of Nebraska women's softball this weekend as the Huskers take on Tennessee in Knoxville Friday, Saturday, the if necessary game on Sunday. Make sure you stay on HuskerOnline.com, and Abby will keep you up to date on that. When we come back, we'll take your questions in the mailbag. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. We're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett, Abby Barmore. Before we get into the mailbag, this segment of the Husker Online Show, Steve Sipple, is brought to you by who?
Sean, Larson Motors. If you're looking for a new vehicle, if you happen to be looking for a new vehicle, and I am looking for a new vehicle, how about go for a new experience at Larson Motors in Nebraska City? Larson Motors is one of the Midwest's only dealers with all of the major brands in one location. Try it. Finding your new Chevrolet, GMC, Hummer, Ford, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram never has been easier. How about starting your new experience today at LarsonMotorGroup.com or at Larson Motors in beautiful Nebraska City? Larson Motors, real people,
Real deals.
All right, Abby, mailbag time. Where are we going first?
Okay, first one. If you had to choose right now, on the depth chart, who are Nebraska's top 3 receivers?
Oh, that's easy.
Well, Dane Key, Isaiah Hunter, and probably Ja'Cory Barney.
Ja'Cory Barney. Rob,
No
would you
arguments.
diverge from that?
Nope.
Okay.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah, I think that's pretty solid, especially with Hartley Gilmore gone now. I mean, there's just no other.
Would you put Cortez Mills next?
Maybe by week 5 you could make that case, but I think you need to see what he can do.
Who'd you
first.
put next then?
Probably Cortez Mills, but as the 4th.
Yeah.
What about Bonner too?
Bonner.
Because he
Yeah.
plays so many different roles.
Bonner could be that guy. I don't know.
Well, then Mosey.
Yeah, Mosey.
So, I mean,
you get pretty young after those top 3.
Yeah, and then you start getting yourself down to that redshirt freshman group of Keelan Smith and
Quinn Clark.
Quinn Clark.
Yeah.
Those guys are going to be in the next kind of group of players.
Yep.
And then then some other freshmen are coming in too still. All right, next question.
Okay, in that same vein, can Nebraska have a 1,000-yard receiver this year?
I think they will.
Dane Key.
One of those, Dane Key's the likely, but Ja'Cory Barney.
Ja'Cory Barney is working hard on his second level releases and getting free in the deeper.
Mm-hmm.
He averaged, I think, 8.5 yards per catch. Don't quote me on that. It was in that range. And he wants to up that. And that would get him, that's the critical element in that conversation for him.
Mm-hmm. Well, for all of them, because look back to last year. The amount of passes they completed over 10 or 15 yards were so minimal that it was impossible for people to get the yardage necessary to get to 1,000. So if the deep pass element is getting back to where it used to be, then yeah, it's absolutely on the table. That's for the types of receivers Nebraska thinks it's recruiting, that shouldn't be that difficult of a benchmark.
Yeah, they've had those deep guys in recent years,
Mm-hmm.
Torrey and
when you're getting Palmer,
Trey Palmer. Yeah, I always say James.
You
Palmer.
wanted to go. You're gonna go James. But
I'm not gonna make that mistake again. I'll just do this to Sean.
You just pretend like you don't remember who one of the all-time leading receivers is in school history.
Why do I always call him James Palmer?
I don't know.
Is that because I'm 58?
Probably.
Corey Campbell.
Cooper. All right, keep going.
All right,
Okay,
next
one. Which underrated Big Ten quarterback do you think will have a good year?
Oh, Aiden Childs is the one I put on our chat.
I like
the other
that
day.
pick.
Yeah.
I think the Wisconsin transfer.
Oh, you like him
from Maryland?
from Maryland? Yeah,
Billy
Donovan.
no,
Billy
Edwards.
Billy Edwards. Billy Edwards.
God dang.
Billy Edwards.
Billy Thornton. So I threw out on the chat Malik Washington at Maryland. He's a true freshman. He's probably one of the more heralded quarterback recruits out of high school Maryland's gotten in a long time. He was one of the top dual sport athletes, basketball, football, come out of high school. And he might not be the week 1 starter, but by week 2 or 3, he's probably going to be the guy. And he's the X factor for them because Maryland's, they're going to need all the help they can get. And so it could be a learning curve season for him, but from a pure talent standpoint, he's probably as gifted as any quarterback in the Big Ten.
Well, what about Indiana's transfer quarterback too? They
Mendoza.
Fernando Mendoza from
Mhm.
Cal.
Mm-hmm.
And you add kind of the Kirk Signetti magic wand, but Mendoza went for 3,000 yards, 16 TDs, and 6 picks last year.
That's this thing, Sean. I don't know if he's underrated. I don't know if he's overlooked. I mean, people are expecting
He's going to a playoff team.
right, and people expect a lot of him. He was Cal's franchise player, so
Mhm.
they got a good one.
God, he threw for 364 on Oregon State, 385 on Wake, 299 on Stanford. I mean, he put up some huge numbers.
They got
last year.
They might be better at quarterback than they were last year.
God.
Curtis Rourke, I thought, started to show limitations late. Now he got hurt too. He got hurt late, but remember the Michigan game? He just looked like he was. It looked like the pressure was getting to him. That's what it looked like to me. He didn't look elite, and then in the NFL draft, he wasn't. You saw that NFL didn't think he was elite.
Is he Canadian? He's Canadian, right?
Yeah. Do you hold that against him?
No, I'm saying that you wonder if the CFL will try to get their claws on him as a Canadian.
Yeah. You would think so.
Well, you don't make any money. I mean, like
No.
a CFL player makes like practice squad money, Dan. I mean, it's not much money.
No, I know.
So it's a huge. But yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, he might have to go play in a lower league to prove himself.
I hate to say that about Rourke because he looked so good against Nebraska. Remember how good he looked?
Everybody,
throwing
I was gonna
darts.
say Nebraska made a lot of quarterbacks look pretty good.
I mean, John Cougar Mellencamp walked by us that day there.
That's the highlight of Sip's season.
Sipple
It was one of the
freaked
highlights
out.
of my life. It was. We made eye contact, which really freaks me out.
Yeah.
I read though, like he's not approachable.
No, in fact, because I was saying to Andy Kendi, we were walking. It was after the press conference. I said, God, this has been really cool. The only thing is I haven't seen John Cougar Mellencamp. And there he was. there he was.
Just like a aura of light around him as he walked in.
Had a little entourage, and it was the kind of eye contact like you do not say.
Yeah, he was
Don't
just,
even.
he
think
was
about
waiting
it.
for you to say,
Do-
"Hey, it's John Cougar
Do
Mellencamp."
not.
Do you have time for a quick picture? Then you can make that post. It was a pleasure and an honor to meet the great John Cougar Mellencamp. What a
My
great
friend.
man.
No,
Like,
the
no,
eye
he didn't want to
contact-
meet you. You just
No.
forced a picture with him.
No, the eye contact was do not say anything.
I read though he's unapproachable, like
Right.
not real friendly to approach and talk to.
We would have got along really fine.
Hey, I'm mean too.
Next time. Next time.
All right, Abby,
I'm
let's-
grumpy old man,
Oh my
like
gosh.
you,
All right,
just a little younger.
Let's hang out.
final question, Abby Barmore.
Okay, we have two final questions. One, what is your favorite touchdown celebration? Two, who is your favorite NFL player of all time?
Go ahead, guys.
I don't know why, but let's do celebrations first. But my favorite celebration still was Tony Gonzalez when he would just dunk the football. Like at that time,
Yeah,
it
it's
was
cool.
it was pretty unique.
Cool.
Like people weren't, and he would just slam it. I mean, and the crossbar's 10 feet up.
That's pretty cool.
I
I'll give you
always liked
It's
the
a
guy-
good one. Was he a
the-
chief?
Yeah, he was a chief.
Yeah, of course. He was a chief.
But I mean, he would just dunk the hell out of the football on the goalpost. And I don't know, can they do that one anymore, Robert? I get flagged for that.
I don't know.
Ooh, I don't know.
I think that you can't use like
A weapon.
props. Like you can't use the pylon. You can't use that sort of thing. So there probably is a rule against it.
I don't know.
Either way, was it Jimmy Graham dunked the goalpost and like bent it? And so like the extra point had to be kicked, bent crossbar.
That's a problem. That's
Uh,
a problem.
Mine's easy. Victor Cruz salsa dance during that Super Bowl run. Every time he scored a touchdown, him salsaing over the other team. That was one of the best things ever. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. I don't have a specific player. I just like the snow angel. I mean, I like when there's snow and they do an angel.
What about the Icky Shuffle?
I love that. That was back in the day. Better times.
That's my one B.
It's hard to celebrate.
When was that? 80s?
Icky Woods. Yeah.
Yeah,
80s,
mid 80s,
late 80s.
early to mid 80s.
No, later than that. Late 80s.
Okay.
It's hard to celebrate in college football because they flag you, but one of the greatest ones I can remember, and it wasn't flagged, was Ndamukong Suh when he picked off Colorado in that 2008 game where Hawkins threw him the ball, and he ran and scored that touchdown and just kind of like Donkey Kong, like kicked him off his leg, and he threw the football as hard as he threw the football as hard as he could at the north end zone wall,
Yep.
Mhm.
and they
remember
didn't
that.
flag him for it.
No.
Right.
Just imagine if they threw a flag there. Just
Wow.
totally like sullied the
Buzzkill.
moment. Yeah,
That
we
was
were right.
kinda like
we
a
were right in the
big-
corner of that. That was awesome.
Were you
But
down there?
Right in that corner.
I was upstairs. God, you were down there?
It was.
I remember I was standing next to Keith Mann, our media relations director, and at an 08, we still didn't know for sure, if Sue was like a shoe-in first team All Big 12 player. I mean, he was just coming on
Wow.
at that point of the year
Yeah.
because he had gotten healthy. And Keith, this turn, he goes, well, that locks up first team all
Yeah.
Big 12.
Now they're talking about him possibly the greatest college football player ever.
And then the Clemson Bowl game, he came on and just was unreal, and then came back, and then obviously had the season of a lifetime.
Yeah, Bruce Feldman just came out with a list of the top players of since 2000, and it was Cam Newton, Bush, and Sue top 3. Cam Newton, Reggie Bush, Sue.
So Sue's your top defender.
Sue was
Favorite player, NFL player
of all time.
of all time. I'm going to go one of my favorite. It's hard to say just one, but I really like Derek Thomas of the Chiefs.
Oh, sure.
The late Derek Thomas.
Yeah. It's a good one.
And he would jump the snap every time. I mean, it looked like he was offsides. He wasn't jumping. He was so quick off the ball.
He was elite. Mine is the greatest defensive player ever to play the game of football. Changed the sport. Lawrence Taylor of the New York Football Giants. Oh yeah, I mean, he got me into football. Like,
did he?
I'm a Giants fan largely in part of Lawrence Taylor.
Really?
Yeah, and all of his off the field antics, and there are many of them.
There's a lot of problems.
I've read his books. He goes into detail on it.
Antics
from a football standpoint. And the craziest part is he would like go party all night on a Saturday, just doing coke and getting drunk, doing all the things that he would do, and then show up to the facility like 2 hours before the game starts. No one knew where he was. Like, he missed bed check and all that stuff. He would just show up at the stadium, get ready, would barely go through warmups, and then he'd go get 3 sacks.
God,
like it was the type of player that Bill Belichick, who was the defensive coordinator for the Giants then, couldn't say anything to him. Like, because Lawrence was just going to do his thing because he was Lawrence Taylor. Like, that is a level of greatness that you don't really ever see in football.
You know, some people might say, just think how much better he would have been had he not done what he did.
But maybe
that's
what fueled him.
Right. I don't agree with that. Some guys need that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the
way
way
like Dale Strawberry and Doc Gooden on that 80s Mets team. I mean,
some guys are that good because they're wired that way.
Right.
Johnny Manziel won a Heisman.
Sitting around
drunk
studying film doesn't do it for them. They just go out and play.
Right. It's you know, some people are going to push back on that, and I understand why. So similar tale of the years. I was just a boy, though. You guys probably can't even imagine me being a fan of anything or actually crying when somebody loses. But I used to cry when the Raiders lost. Like, I was a child. But Ken Stabler was easily my favorite player. It wasn't even close. He was a left-handed quarterback for the Raiders.
You cried.
I would weep when they lost big games.
Yeah, same.
Were all the Raiders games even on television back when?
A lot of them were. Yeah, I mean the big ones. Yeah,
the Monday nights and the
Oh yeah.
I just didn't know if you could get the Raider games.
Well, every time they played the Chiefs or the Broncos.
It's not like today. But they were, Sean. There was TV, color TV when I was growing up. Color TV. But I do remember black and white too, and I watched games on black and white. Geez, Abby, I'm so sorry.
I didn't even know TV used to be black and white.
It did. It did. I think Hank Aaron, when he hit his home run, I was watching on a black and white TV when he hit the all-time 7. I think I was watching on a black and white TV. Yeah, we had a black and white TV.
Oh, what about me? I'll go Travis Kelce. Easy. But see, here's the thing. Here's the thing about Travis Kelce. Yes, he's dating Taylor Swift, but I always liked him. And he's so, like, he's a threat no matter what. He has 3 guys on him, and he's a threat, and they're just going to find him no matter what. Pat's just going to find him.
He's the greatest receiving tight end of all time.
Yeah.
Is he?
Easy.
Not going to say he's the greatest tight end. He's the greatest receiving tight end of all time.
God, not the Super Bowl, though, Abby.
No, I don't think
out.
None of the Chiefs were that great in the Super Bowl.
He checked out. He checked out of a Super Bowl, which still.
Well, the offensive line wasn't even protecting. I mean, like, Mahomes didn't even have time to even look down the field.
Yeah.
Ooh,
the Super Bowl, it was bad. I don't want to talk about it.
Well, did you see the D line of the Philly or the Eagles? I mean, they were all. I mean, they were up and down the whole game.
Oh, they were killing them.
All right,
terrible.
When we come back, I do want to talk Big Ten baseball. Nebraska is alive. They'll play Friday, but we're going to talk more about this format and if it needs to be tweaked and the thought of it moving forward. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. Final segment of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washut. As we close things up, I do want to talk Big Ten baseball, and Nebraska kind of saved the attendance, at least, of this tournament by getting the win on Tuesday against Michigan State, a walk-off win that was set up by an error. They called it an error, I'd assume, on the right fielder.
Oh, that was an error. Yeah, there's only one way to score that one, Sean.
Hit his
It hit him in the glove,
his palm.
inside his glove.
But Nebraska gets the win, and a lot of discussion about this format, and because of the fact that it's going to set up some meaningless games. Like now, Michigan State will play Oregon, and there's really no meaning to the game at all.
Thursday,
right?
Yeah, I mean, the format's flawed for sure. But God, as you pointed out on a radio show, Sean, it makes a lot of TV sense. It makes sense for TV because the format doesn't get out of whack, and it keeps those slots clean.
3 slots per day,
and it keeps them clean. So TV is a big part of this world, and I think that's probably the main draw of this format, right?
Yeah, and the SEC has a similar 3 games per day format right now. But what they do is nobody will play more. The lowest seeded teams would play a max of 5 games. That's the lowest 8.
Okay.
Then teams 9 to 12 could play up to 4 games. They get a bye. Okay. Then the top 4 teams, the highest 4 seeded teams, could only play 3 games maximum. Okay. And they get 2 byes. Okay. And so it's single elimination. That's 16 teams. And I think that format would make sense for the Big Ten to move to. But here's the problem. There's 17 teams.
Right.
And I do think there's a cost element too. I don't know how wild the Big Ten or schools are to travel 17 teams to Omaha for only 1 game.
Oh, no, I totally get it. You won't hear me be overly critical of the format because I'd like to hear what went into it before I'm overly critical. And I think that, like you said, a lot of it is TV driven. With the other format, it was unwieldy because you'd have games lasting until after 1 or 2 a.m.
Elimination games.
Elimination games. And the TV crews would have to be back at the stadium at 7 o'clock. So it became unwieldy. And again, this makes it cleaner, which I get it. It doesn't bother me as much as it bothers me.
And they've protected the top 4 seats.
Yes. That's important.
And those are the teams going to the regionals.
Right. Exactly. They should be protected. So that's okay. It's not ideal.
That protects your top seeds while giving your other teams a chance. That's in a conference tournament. That's all you really ask for.
Right.
If you really aren't in that conversation of being a surefire seed OBS team, you at least want a chance. And a team like Nebraska has a chance.
They have a chance. And Nebraska's, they're worth watching. And I'm not surprised they rallied to win. They do that a lot. This Nebraska team, they've struggled. I get it. People are frustrated, some of them, but they don't quit. I mean, they like at 4-1. I was like, they'll be in it at the end. You're pretty confident saying that, and they were. Now they caught a big break. The kid should have ended the game for sure with that catch, but Nebraska was pushing them. They're pressing, and that's what they do. They keep pressing. Oregon will have its hands full with Nebraska. Mark my word on that. Oregon will have a hard time with Nebraska.
Should be a big crowd Friday, and then if you win that, you would play Saturday in the night game on Saturday, and that would be a huge crowd. If they get to Saturday, huge crowd, and then Sunday is the traditional championship game. But, yeah, the schedule's a little bit more manageable. But, yeah, just protecting your regular season success. Like, hey, you get a good grade the whole semester. We're not going to ding you for the final exam. Like you can't just erase your bad semester of schoolwork by acing the final. Like you have to earn it.
And I like that. Actually, I like that.
But the negative is like, there's going to be some meaningless games.
Yes.
Like Michigan State and Oregon tomorrow. Very meaningless. Michigan State's playing for nothing.
Like there'll be like less than 1,000 people in the ballpark.
Yeah.
My dad will be one of them working.
Your dad's working it?
Yeah, he works for the Mecca as a stadium event worker.
The time off between games. Imagine losing that opener and then you sit around, just kill time before you play a meaningless game. Like that's a real salt in the wound situation.
Yeah, Michigan State will play on Wednesday or on Thursday. Right. And then Nebraska, they get extra days off. So the pitching should be well rested.
Nebraska plays Friday.
Yeah, and they'll play Friday night. Right. So it should be interesting to see how they change the format. I do think there's
Will they change it, you think?
I don't know. Because what are you trying to do? Are you trying to kind of get some team that just gets hot and reward them? Or do you want to build this league to protect your higher seeded teams and give your teams the best chance in the NCAA tournament? I don't know. There's a lot of ways. Like Iowa may not make the NCAA tournament after the great regular season they had, but they played nobody.
Mm-hmm.
They're 0-6-1 in quad one games.
Trouble.
And Iowa struggled at the end of the year, so they're probably out. But yeah, the Big Ten, you would like this league to be a 5 or 6 bid league eventually.
You think 3 this year? UCLA, Oregon, US.
I think they'll get at least 4. I think they'll get 3 and somebody else.
Okay.
I mean, God, Nebraska, if they would have just won a few more, like 3-4 more games, you're probably talking about them in.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they're at right now.
Yeah.
Well, take care of business this week.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda. The story of the sports teams we've covered the last few years.
Right. But they can win the tournament.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they have to do. They haven't won 4 in a row all year. They'd have to win 4 in a row.
So are you calling a win over Oregon? Is that what you're saying?
Not a win, but
Okay.
it'll be tight. It'll be a
What's
tight game.
1 run?
Yeah, like last night.
Okay.
I bet it'll be very similar to last night.
Okay.
And Oregon, you would think, will go all in on
Don't
this.
know what Oregon will do.
They're
Their
super-
ace will be rested. They could it'd be his scheduled start Friday night. So they probably will throw their ace.
Look, Oregon wants to win this too because they're in position to host a super regional. This would lock it up.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be tough. It'll be tough.
All right. When we come back, or actually that wraps it up.
That's it.
No bonus time
We'll come
here
back
today,
next
but
week.
we'll come back. Hopefully everybody has a great Memorial Day. For Abby Barmore, Steve Sipple, Robin Washut. We will not have a HuskerOnline headline show Monday. We will have headlines still later this week, Friday, but we'll be back with our regular HuskerOnline show on Wednesday next week. Signing off here for the HuskerOnline show, I'm Sean Callahan.